as we jump into this episode of life coaching versus traditional therapy. I, Shanice, here with Jamie, the traditional therapist. I, Shanice, the ultimate life coach, will bring upon this episode. Now, we wonder, well, how in the world did this come up? How did we get here? How did we get from meeting on a social media platform, not knowing each other, to sitting down at a local park in the middle of the woods next to next to a flowing stream of water, so beautiful, so clean, so crisp, out here in the misty rain on a late spring day, talking about two passions, two fields that really burns in our hearts in a good way. Talking about our experience with life coaching and our experience with therapy. So the answer to that, bring our two dynamics together in a very fluid and free-flowing conversation so we can address topics pertaining to mental health, bring those topics to other people who are interested in hearing our perspectives, interested in hearing those topics. And who knows where this will go. But now that we got that out the way, let's get to the important stuff. We want to introduce ourselves. Again, this is Shanice. I'm the life coach, and my experience with life coaching and my thoughts on life coaching goes a little like this. We all have a story, and we all have a journey. And at this point in my life, at this phase in my life, it has brought me towards experiencing and becoming a life coach. Now, throughout my journey, I had a lot of different avenues I took towards healing. Of course, I did personal training, to get my body together, lose weight, just stuff like that. Something that everybody usually goes through during, let's say, your late 20s to 30s, right? Everyone does it. Of course, I've had mental health healing. I've been to therapy for 5 years or so. We'll talk about that later. Spiritually, I focus on my spiritual wellness in a sense, and, had to balance that out as well. And emotionally, we all go through things, challenges and stuff like that. And I just had to learn how to, bring it all together. So I say all that to say this, holistically wise, with my experience in balancing all those aspects within me out, and tackling a lot of my battles heads on, and being aware and building that awareness, and just documenting and experiencing it throughout my journey. I just come to find that my passion in articulating that way of healing, or sharing those ways of healing to other people. And I learned to find that people are interested, people need that, people want that, and that helps others. And I found a want to do that. I found a passion to help people. That's something I would do for free. But of course, as we continue on the journey, one thing that you learn is that you need to learn to put a value on those passions and such. So that's where we're at now as far as life coaching. So yes, my definition, my experience with life coaching is really just the holistic balancing of one's well-being, which includes spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. How about you, Jamie? No pressure.
My name is Jamie. My background is in education and psychology. I have gone back and forth between both fields for over 10 years. I have experience as a tutor, working in classroom with students that have developmental delays, as well as other mental health diagnoses like autism, ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, and other health impairments. I've also worked in group homes with youth going through the juvenile justice system, youth going through the foster care system. I've worked in enrichment programs, and I've worked as an intensive in-home provider, which is a mental health service that assists with crisis management, skills training, and counseling. I'm currently on the education side. I work for an education company that provides enrichment programs to the school system. I'm also working towards my master's in clinical mental health counseling. The reason I go back and forth between the fields, I started off as an education major, and I realized working in the schools that I wanted to help the whole child, not just with their education, but with their whole self. And so I switched to psychology. So that's why I'm passionate about both. I love working with youth. I love working with children, young adults. My own experience, as far as on the therapy side, I have gone to therapy, family therapy, a few times. I've never done individual therapy, but it is something that I would like to get into. Never had experience with a life coach, but I have known some therapists to switch to life coaching.
That's interesting. We may need to do a topic. We may need to address that as well, because I would like to hear that. I would like to hear your perception on that, and any experience or whatever you got from that, as far as who you know. And we may need to go into detail and have a conversation about that, which I think we will. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So that's pretty much it about me, my background and experience.
You know what I liked about what you said in your intro just now, and it was something that stuck out to me. It was you saying that you had an original degree in something. I believe it was education. And then you switched it to psychology.
Yes.
And then your reason for doing that. You know what I mean? And I like that you addressed that and broke it down, because, you know, how long did it take you from when you entered that degree of education to switch and make that decision? Because one, that's a big jump. That's a big jump to switch a degree, but then also that means that, okay, you knew that that's the switch you wanted to do. Something had to have happened to like make you look at things a little bit differently, and for you to make that jump, it had to have been something. I won't say traumatic. I would just say something. I won't even say extreme, but something impactful.
Yes. So I was probably in my 3rd year in my education program. I was in my 3rd year, so almost finished.
Yeah.
And during that time, I had the opportunities to work in a school and kind of start getting that experience before I was finished with the degree.
Yeah.
And
so like an intern or residency.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
And what happened?
as I was working, as I was working with the kids, just realizing, trying to assist them with their education.
Yeah.
Some of their challenges stem from some trauma they experienced, or you know, just their inability to regulate their emotions when they got frustrated.
Yep.
So we couldn't really move forward
Right.
in the education side if we didn't address the other side. But as an educator, you can only address them to a certain extent.
Right.
And so I knew I wanted to help them fully, and so I needed to switch to the other side.
Okay. Now, when you say that, you know what, and when you're talking education and the kids you was working with, what was their age group?
So I've worked with kids ranging from toddler into adulthood. So working at the group home, we had sibling sets, different non-related youth, and we had a 1-year-old all the way up to an 18-year-old, and they were in foster care. So I've worked with those ranges. But in the school system, I started out with first and second grade, and these were special needs students, and I think that's why it was so impactful, because they were already dealing with mental health diagnoses. So I knew they were struggling because of their autism, because of their ADHD, and so the kids I was working with,
Right.
they were struggling, and I knew it was due to the fact that they had autism, ADHD, other mental health diagnoses that in the classroom we couldn't really address.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to help support those students more fully, or those children more fully, and I knew that switching to psychology would be the best option to do that.
Now, my question that just came to me to add on to that, with the time frame that it may take for you to eventually overall get that degree and be qualified per se, or to be ready to be let loose into that field, do you think that, let's say it takes 6 years from when you switched until when you did your residency and trained under, or when you're able to start your private practice, say it takes 6 years, is that a good estimate?
Yes, because you have to go through your bachelor level, and then go get your master's, which is another 2 years, plus your internship under a licensed therapist. Then after you graduate, you can take your licensure exam, which only allows you to be you're not fully licensed. It's a provisional license.
Right.
So even under that provisional license, you still have to gain so many hours before you're fully licensed.
Right. So, I mean, even if we're talking 6 years to when you can actually work with them, whether you are supervised or not, or however, or fully unsupervised, let's say anywhere between 6 to 10 years, right, from when you made that decision to switch over. That 6 to 10 years, as it wanes and expires, is a lot has changed within that time period, especially with those kids who kind of triggered you into, or those circumstances at that time that kind of like had an impact towards you making that change. So times change during 6 to 10 years. Those kids change during 6 to 10 years. So now it's a whole new cycle of kids. You know what I'm talking about? If you're deciding to, stay within that age range, these are different individuals. These are different times, different circumstances. So do you believe, as like, that time frame of that is needed for you to get that educational awareness, that educational information, and solidify your qualifications? Your field is providing you with that up-to-date information to support the new incoming group of kids that you was originally wanting to deal with? Or do you continue to just mold with those kids that you was originally wanting to deal with? Meaning, the way I'm looking at it is, say you was teaching the kindergartners at the time, right? That made you want to do this. And then so you take whatever courses for 6 to 10 years. Now, when you come back, do you want to address and have your primary target audience, those, how old will they be? 18 to 24 years old now? Do you want to, work with them? Or do you want to work with the original age range that you initially started with?
As far as when I'm fully licensed, I do want to work with all ages.
Okay.
I do want to work with all ages.
So that means everybody.
All within the range of youth.
Okay.
All
Adolescents.
ages. Yeah.
Okay.
So from the very young to the ones who are about to go into adulthood, I do want to work with all of them. I have worked with all of them in some capacity. Even not being fully licensed, there are opportunities out there to work in the mental health field. As either a direct care assistant, a qualified professional, which is you have a bachelor's already and you're able to work in different fields. That's how I was able to work as an intensive in-home specialist. So I was providing mental health services to youth ranging from, we had during the time a 5-year-old, and then we had, I think the oldest may have been 16, maybe about to turn 17. So I was able to work with a wide range of ages already.
Yeah. Well, as times change, have you noticed, like, okay, because you say you've been in for a decade or so now, have you noticed any differences as far as, like, not necessarily extremes, but have you noticed any differences as far as, like, things that may impact a child's learning or development in your field, from, 10 years ago or 8 years ago when you was working with a group of kids, kindergartners, versus now the new kindergartners that's in now? Do you think that they have the very similar situations, or have you noticed anything that may have changed that may, has worsened, their development as far as, like, mental health, or things that are now bringing more of a focus on their mental health? Again, you can also address, like, if there's guidance counselors, or if they're bringing more of those people who can insert themselves before, like you were saying, like, you notice that, they probably need to address some other things before you can address, development. Maybe they need to address some emotional things at certain ages. Have you noticed that within, like, your practices or schools or, whatever business it is?
Yes.
Have you noticed them implement those professions to help?
Absolutely. So, like I said, I go back and forth. So sometimes I'm working in the schools, sometimes I'm working on the mental health side. And so I've seen now in the schools, they are implementing more social emotional learning into regular education.
Okay.
So before, maybe they had guidance counselors, and it was only if the teacher referred, only the kids who were referred that really were able to learn those skills. And now it is in the regular education where the school counselor is teaching classes just like a regular enrichment class. Like, just like they go to art, they go to music, they go see the guidance counselor, and it's a regular class where they go learn those social emotional skills that they need. And so that's starting at a young age now, which is I've noticed to be very beneficial. They've also implemented more roles in the school system that address mental health. They have behavior specialists, they have the guidance counselor, they have the school counselor, they have social workers. There are other roles that are present now and available to the youth to access for their mental health needs.
Great. That brings me to a question that I just thought about. Make sure there ain't no birds out here. But y'all definitely ain't gonna see this video. But so that as you were speaking, there was a question that popped in my mind that I think is really, really good for us to address. I know that we are very close in age. When you was talking, I was thinking about when I was in school, when I was in high school in particular, maybe even middle school, and those individuals that you said were selected to be going to the guidance counselor and stuff like that based off of the teacher's discrepancy and whatnot. I was thinking about certain people. Can't remember by names, of course. I wouldn't do nothing like that, but in my mind, I was thinking, dang, I remember, everybody got that person, those people in they graduating class, or who they went to school with, like, oh, that was the bad kid, you know what I mean, or that was the class clown, something like that. Now I'm thinking, 10 years removed from high school. Well, hold on, let me think. 2013, 13 years removed from high school. I'm thinking, well, where are those kids now? I'm thinking, what is such and such doing? What is Whoop-de-Whoop doing? And now I'm sitting here thinking to myself, was it beneficial? Like, okay, when I think back on some of their journeys, whether I'm up to date with them or not, you can probably go on your Facebook or check out your own personal group of high school friends. But you think, well, them going to guidance counselor or doing summer school and all those ISS or ASS and all those different things that they agreed upon, like the school system, the school group, or whoever, they agreed upon setting in these school elements so that these children with these can address these emotional things, so that they could now address the educational side and be able to develop their learning skills better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Did any of that help? Like, and if it did help, what percentage did it help? And then not only if it didn't help, then what ended up helping these young people now, but at the time, young kids? You know what I mean? Was it life experience? Was it therapy down the road? Did the guidance counselor be able to nip that in the bud at that time? Was it, did they ever get help? What is that experience like? What is that statistic like? I'd be interested in knowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
good question.
Because now we got a decade, 13 years underneath our belt, and you just look around. I mean, you don't need you grown. You don't need nobody to tell you. You look around and see. You know what I mean? So now it leads us to think, okay, well, like you said, they've started implementing so many different things, bringing in so many different types of behavioral therapists and such, making it more of a presence in our education. Results of just having guidance counselors, because that's all I had, if I remember correctly. We just had guidance counselors and principals and stuff like that. Also, we could talk about the teacher mentors that a lot of us had, you know what I mean? Those who weren't, like the coaches and stuff, the athletic coaches.
Right, sure.
We could talk about those. Were they helpful?
I think, to me, it's pretty obvious along the way, they've recognized that there was more support needed. And that's why these new programs and these new positions exist now. And like you said, you look at people from where they started and you look down the road and kind of following along to see like how beneficial was it. They may look at these kids now and realize, you know what, we need to add even more support, or we need to restructure something so that there's not such, not so many youth continuing to struggle.
Can I ask you a question? Do you see a lot of in-school kids going to private therapists right now?
That would be hard for me to answer because that would not be disclosed to me.
Right.
So that is difficult to answer.
And I ask that because it really just goes hand in hand with, is the guidance counselor enough? Should we place that much pressure on the guidance counselor's position? You know what I mean?
So what I will say, guidance counselor, when I was growing up, that was the term used throughout elementary, middle, and high school.
Right.
My understanding now is guidance counselors are more so, and I could be wrong, but are more so at the high school level for guidance, to help them with career development.
Oh, okay.
Now, what I see more of are school counselors. So these are licensed professionals in the mental health field.
Okay. When I'm I'm glad that you brought that up and broke it down like that, because I didn't look at it like that. I did hear you say earlier that school counselors, you included school counselors in that list of behavioral therapists and guidance counselors. But when you said that, it kind of went straight over my head. I was like, well, maybe she's just, using those terms interchangeably. But I'm glad that you broke that down so that now I can look at it separately. Mm-hmm. And maybe that is something that, will be added down the long run as far as like more school counselors specifically. Because also when you say guidance counselors, I was looking at it the same way as you were. Because when I was in school, guidance counselors were referred to as like helping those in elementary, middle, and high school. Mm-hmm. But the way you said that they're kind of described in today's term is just, for career prep. And if I'm not mistaken, when I was in high school, if not even middle school, like we had individual courses for like career prep or tech or something like that. Mm-hmm. Tech and skill, something like that. So maybe that's how, maybe it's changed like that. Yeah, I like how when you were speaking in the intro, you stated that you had some experience with family therapy. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I think you said you didn't have any experience in life coaching. And that really is my experience as well. Let me not say official, any paid experience as having a personal life coach, but I would definitely say I've had life coaching from a lot of different elements, and I'm want to bring up my perspective and the description of that, because I think that 90% of people can and will relate to it in a sense of, not only holistic wellness, but also in just, the terminology. Life coaching to me, really is, it's the well-being and the balance of oneself holistically, meaning that, which includes mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And there's a quote that I had seen off of Instagram, good old Instagram, the gram, and it sticks in my mind a lot, and it was posted by @urban__Buddha, her Instagram page, and it says therapy is to process past events, which might include how they are blocking your current growth, and life coaching is to unblock your next level of growth, which might include processing past events. So I say that to say this: it can, in my opinion, and we will talk about this more in depth later, I believe that both avenues can work hand in hand, can be molded to each individual's the way they see fit, but I also think they provide great amount of value as far as like building, as far as applying the foundation to someone's mental health for themselves. And I think it's up to that individual person to have that understanding, to have those perspectives, to have that knowledge and wisdom of all these different avenues of mental health support, i.e. therapy, life coaching, school counselor, guidance counselor, all these different terms, all these different positions and people, so that they can find what fits them better. That leads me to go into my experience with therapy and also comparing therapy to life coaching. And we shall break it down starting. All right, so my experience with therapy, okay, Miss Goody Goody Two Shoes.
Wait, okay, before you get into that, let me say this. I like the quote that you just read, because I never really looked at it that way. Yeah. Like I said, I don't have experience with life coaching. I always, when I thought of life coaching, I thought it was more so like an accountability partner.
Okay.
So that was what it was in my mind, but I didn't think how it makes sense. As I'm holding you accountable to achieve these goals. There may be a block that's there, and we may need to address it. Like the quote said, that includes past trauma. So that made a lot of sense. That was insightful for me.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because you know, people need to hear it like that. People need to understand that life coaching is exactly what it is, a coach. If you're an athlete who was in high school, a collegiate athlete or something like that, who did you have? A coach. A coach, again, goes back to our previous discussion not too long ago about, you know, those people, those mentors, those go-to people that you have, you know, you just naturally drift to in high school or whatever stage you are in your journey, to, you know, help you with certain things that you feel comfortable with, regardless of their title. Okay, it's a coach. You know, as you get out of high school and you know you get out of college, and you know life hits you, because it's pow right in your face. We all yeah, you know, so you feel me, everybody feel me. You know, it's okay to need a coach, okay? Even if you don't want to go to, I mean, we're gonna bring up therapy, but we're just using it side to side. If you don't like the term titled therapy, there are people, truly are, who, and I was one of them for a long time, who looked at the term therapy and was like, I'm not no crazy person. You ain't gonna call me crazy, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to therapy because I ain't crazy. You know what I'm saying? Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
All right. Now, that was before I went to therapy. Okay. But, coaching might be better for other people, but as long as, like, person for them, you know, that might be what's needed for them. We all need support, but a lot of us, especially in my age group, you know, in our age group actually, you know, we go through these twists and turns and nicks and crannies of life, and things are always changing and evolving. And sometimes it's like, dang, you know, who can you go to for this advice in this twist and turn of your life? And you know, a lot of times it's nobody. And you know, like I said again, life coaching holistically, all around well-being, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, you know, all of that encompassed in one. But yeah, going back to my experience with therapy. Okay, my experience with therapy. It took me a long time to go to therapy. I didn't need a therapist. And therapy may be the title that may not be the title that I needed or whatever, but I did go to therapy. But I did have those same thoughts that a lot of people have. You know, I don't need to go to therapy. I was like, I'm not crazy. I like, ain't nothing wrong with me, yada, yada. And wasn't nothing wrong with me. But, therapy did help me a lot. I went to therapy for 5 years. Let's see how we're going to flow. Yeah, so we probably should bring up like our own personal, and I'll go first, you know, bring up some of our own real challenges, such as one that we kind of have in common right now, as far as like, you know, speaking about these passions of ours, and not only speaking fluidly with one another, because we've become comfortable with having these conversations with one another. It's just now taking the step to put it on video, and then ultimately take the step to put it out there into the world. And you know, that's what I want to bring up now, and I'm glad that you said it, is just when you look at people with these titles that pertain to this particular subject, you know, I think it's good to, one, present that to people in an objective way, to remind people that we all are human, and that we need support from one another, even in this juncture of our lives. I speak for myself as, you know, a life coach. You know, my way of, you know, supporting my mental health, whether it's, um, through the support of other people or through the constant learning of things that I'm passionate about. Right now would be just continuing to embrace and stay amongst others who are on a similar journey as far as like prioritizing their health holistically and their overall well-being, whether that be those who are in the therapy sector or those who are in the life coaching sector, those who are in the mentoring sector, or whatever sector there is. As long as I'm around those who I know actively prioritize their well-being overall, that's helpful for me because I learned a lot through them, and I'm also able to be supported by them as well. Of course, staying close to those natural interests that I have, as far as like, finding new trails, staying out in nature, doing things that I like, so that I'm able to not only experience that and receive the benefits of it, I'm able to share that with others and continue to bloom and grow and water my seeds as they see fit. Which, like I said, goes hand in hand to how we have come to this point right now. So, needless to say, I'm grateful to not have too many hard things to experience on a daily basis. I have obstacles as we all do, but the tools that I have, the resources, the support that I have, I'm able to utilize those in order to keep me afloat and keep me balanced. I do not currently go to therapy. It's been, I can't tell you, maybe about a year since the last time I've been to therapy, but I'm not opposed to it, and I'm still open to it. If I ever want to go back, I'm able to go back to it, but I just don't, at this point in my life, at this juncture, at this point in my journey, I haven't had the need to go to therapy because of the steps and those things that I put in place as far as to help me build a solid foundation for my mental health, my own personal mental health. How about yourself?
So, as far as my own struggles with mental health, I will say that in the past I have experienced depression. I didn't know until I was coming out of it, and I was able to reflect back that I had just gone through a depressive state. I have also had experiences with anxiety, more so related to my fear or phobia of small spaces or feeling restricted. I had, even recently, I had an experience. I had to, for physical reasons, I had to go to the hospital and I had to get an MRI, and I had an anxiety attack as they were trying to as they were trying to move me into the MRI, and they had to give me a sedative. So those are the main things that I've experienced with, as far as like mental health struggles. They're not something that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I think, as you said earlier, life will life, and we all go through different things, and so like you said, having that support in different ways, whether it's through, like you said, mentors, a life coach, a therapist, a friend group, a partner, whoever can provide you that support, can be beneficial in allowing you to move through the struggles that you're having.
And I'm glad that you said, and I'm glad that we brought this up, because I want a lot of younger people who may view this, regardless of what your age is, I want you to understand that even us in our years, we have and still deal with, you know, insecurities. We deal with things that we're scared of. We deal with challenges. All these things, they don't necessarily go away. And we also may not have access to the support that may be more easily accessible to those who may still be in grade school, high school, college, or into sports or activities. We have to find different resources to, accommodate those, that support. And like we're breaking down here, we're breaking down our own resources that we use in these years of ours at this point in our journeys to help us stay balanced as, those resources are provided for the younger group of before and now, and hopefully as we continue to evolve in our lives. But yeah, we all go through things, and yeah, that brings me around. I feel like I've tried to come around to this point 2 or 3 times. So, but we here again. That brings me back to my experience with therapy. Of course, I said earlier, therapy was revealed to me and, encouraged for me to utilize plenty of times, whether it was in a aggressive manner or whether it was in a calm-like manner. But I mean, for years, I was just like, I'm not going to therapy because I don't think nothing's wrong with me. I'm not crazy, and I didn't want to feel like that. Ultimately, I ended up going to therapy. I guess you could say I experienced a roadblock. I think that at the time, yeah, I was in my early 20s. So at that time, man, yeah, okay, so this is what happened. So at that time, I'm going to describe exactly how I was feeling. Whew, here we go. I mean, I was just on edge. And when I say on edge, me as a person, me as a young lady, my personality type, I tend to hold a lot of things in, more so introverted, because that's where my comfort comes from. But also been in my early 20s and, having insecurities and stuff and all the pressure of being a woman in her early 20s. Let's lay out some of the pressures that are here going anywhere. A young woman in your early 20s, you should be dating, you should be, about to get married, you should have a stable job, you should, what else we should be? We should be fit, we should be attractive, we should be have a car, you should have your own place, yada yada yada, all these things, right? You should have your degree, which I had. Okay, so boom, we checked that off. But all those things that I had was not fulfilling me, because to me, the only thing on my mind was being stable. Not only stable financially, but just stable in my future. Like, always staying up on things, staying up on my bills, staying up on buying a house, staying up on paying off my car, staying up on prioritizing my social life. All these things I was doing, but my job that I had, the previous 4 years or so, well, the jobs that I had the previous 4 years, they were taking up almost 60% of my waking day. They were taking up, I mean, all the jobs that I had, required overtime. I was working no more than 10 hours, no less than 10 hours a day, each job that I had, even up until that age of 20-some years old. Had no social life. But I'm young. They always say you're young, you're young, you're young. I'm like, okay, yeah. Okay, well, not having anybody to really explain that to, because at the time my social group, obviously I said I didn't have a social life like that. But my support group was very limited because I was only surrounded by not the elderly but the old. And they had a completely different, I love them, but they had a completely different uh, viewpoint of where I was at and where they was at when they was 20 some years old. You know, when I was 20 some years old, you're dealing with the cost of living. You're dealing with the pressure of people telling you, oh, well, you know, you got all these opportunities, yada, yada, yada. That's cool. But then you also got to remember, I'm dealing with a lot of things coming straight out of college. Oh, man, here we go. Coming straight out of college, and, you know, you got a degree, but you're not working in the field that your degree is in. You don't want to go into the field that your degree is in. All these things you're thinking, and you don't know how to take care of yourself as far as health wise. And when you're eating junk food, you know you come out of college. That was my drinking phase and stuff like that. Quickly learned to stop drinking. Okay. It just wasn't, my body wasn't taking that, okay? You know, as you get older, you gotta take better care of yourself. That's what I learned. But the thing is okay, so let's wrap it back around. In my 20s, you know, all that pressure, it was a lot of pressure, and it caused me to really feel, you know, not stuck, but just always feeling like in a constant state of like just aggravation. And at some point I was just like, this is my personality. Like, I'm aggravated, you know what I mean? Like, I'm tired, I'm aggravated. Like, what was the saying, you know, I don't want people talking to me. I was in that phase until it had to come out. So, you know, when I was addressing people, you know, I was blowing up and stuff like that. That wasn't me, but it was me. Like, I was blowing up, like, and I just got tired of just, you know, being so emotional. I thought that's part of my personality. Like, I'm just always going to be that emotional person. Until, okay, boom, I'm in therapy, because they say therapy is therapy. And I got a job, they paying for it, healthcare paying for it, and paying a copay. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so my experience with therapy, I select a therapist, you go to therapy. Now, as I go into therapy, these are the things that's on my mind. The therapist don't fix me. I'm sure people have heard that before. Oh, mind you, that I went to therapy because I didn't know of all the other resources that may have or may have not been out there. But yeah, so I'm thinking the therapist gonna fix me. I like my therapist, I do. But one thing I quickly learned is that the therapist is not going to fix you. Oops. I probably need... And what I mean when I say the therapist isn't going to fix you per se, it's not going to be in the sense of, okay, you go to therapy and they're going to tell you exactly exactly to the T, the directions you need to take and do. That's going to automatically get you there. And I also mean the therapist isn't going to fix you in the sense of they're going to do the work for you. And I'm going to let that sit for a minute so that everyone can grasp that perspective. And to be honest with you, I don't care which title you hear it from. I don't care which resource, which avenue you get it from. Everybody is going to have to do their own work on their own. But I'm grateful for the guidance that we have here. And yeah, so back to therapist isn't going to fix you. So my thought process when the therapist is going to fix me, okay, I'm going here, talk, yada, yada, yada. And you with your experience and, you know, you as the title of the therapy and all this, you going to tell me exactly, yada, 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 boom, what I need to do. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. That's not what happened in hindsight. But also some other things that, you know, came to mind as I was approaching therapy. Um, I did have trust issues as pertaining to therapy, as far as talking to someone in general about things that, um, you know, I never addressed to other people. Just holding in all of those emotions and stuff. And I want to go into this before I forget, because I feel like if I don't go into it now, that I'm going to forget. But going back to my personality type, being quiet, being more to myself, out of comfort or whatnot, realizing that life is lifing, like you said, life is going life, regardless of where you're at on your journey. But how I was dealing with those lifings was because I had been told so many times that you're sensitive, and I thought that was abnormal based off of my surroundings. And in a sense, I was sensitive. I was emotional. I am sensitive. I am emotional, especially when it comes to how other people look at me. But that's the truth. That's because that's who I am. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, how do I need to be more comfortable being me? What area, what aspect do I need to be in order to be comfortable being who I am? And the environments that I was in wasn't conducive to me being who I am. And I didn't know that at the time. And love them, but the people around me didn't know that at the time. And not to say I'm different than anybody, it's just personality is just, it's not even personality. I think it's just being who you are. And let me think. And being, sensitive or emotional, however that is, in environments that was a little bit more rugged, a little bit more tough love environments for the better part of my years, that made me want to mold myself without me finding myself at the time. That made me want to mold myself around those environments, which in a sense, I was molding myself around those environments, but it was not helpful for me to be me. And me molding myself around those environments and becoming tougher, or becoming, that was showing. That was exactly who I was becoming. Was aggravated, annoyed, pressurized, all those things. Until I decided to make a change and to, explore the route that was advised for me. And so, yeah, I took the leap, per se, and went to therapy. And in therapy, I had to find that sensitive or that emotional young woman again. But it did not take, it wasn't easy, and it didn't come overnight. It took years. It took sessions. It took sessions and sessions and sessions to unpack. And that's one of the things that, I also bring to people's attention who want to explore therapy, is to, it's going to take time to unpack. It's going to take time to trust. Because it's like unlocking a gate. And to me, all around, it all ends up coming back to you. You get to decide.
So I had a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would you say was your biggest takeaway from therapy? Like, what's something that stuck with you that you learned from therapy?
Yeah. Okay, so what's one of my biggest is that through the sessions, through talking and being present with that other person, my therapist, I learned that I had most, if not all, of the answers. I had most, if not all, of the answers that I was seeking. when I say that, I mean, as I'm sitting here talking and eventually getting into the flow of things and allowing it to flow, allowing my communication to, become more fluid and more normal to me, allowing me to build that relationship, that bond, that trust with that particular person, my therapist, and just allowing that time to just process however it fit. From the process building, from the nicks and crannies that I had to go through, from the wording that I needed to say, all of that came back and in a sense was a part of me. I not only felt like I had answers, but I was able to say that I was able to stumble across my personality type, who I am, how I want to talk, how I don't want to talk. The goals and stuff that I can wait before we even get to the goals, the things that I like to do, the things that I have fun. How can I start incorporating those things that I like to do into my daily routine? How can we sit here and we can switch and figure out how to reconstruct my daily routine and fill in some of the blanks? I had somebody that I could go to every week or every next session and talk to about the things, my accomplishments. Because a lot of times when we accomplish something, they say move in silence, yada yada yada. No, the truth is you want somebody to be proud of you.
Yeah.
And I go to therapy, I go to my therapist and say, hey, look, I achieved this. I'm 20-some years old. I want to tell them that I achieved something.
Mm-hmm.
And they give me a genuine validation. They truly are proud of me, especially because they seen my transition over a course of time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be 4 years, whether it be 7 years, 7 months. You see, like, they can look at you and they can tell. And another thing, since I'm on this tangent, there have been times where I will be in therapy and over the course of months, things that I didn't even notice, but my therapist will notice and mention, and I feel comfortable disclosing this. My therapist will look at me and say, you have a glow, or you look happy, or, I could see something different, yada, yada, yada. Words of affirmation like that meant a lot to me, especially coming from someone who I placed that, someone whose position that they have in my life, and that title that they have in my life. Those words coming from them meant a lot to me because that's the goal. I selected them to be my therapist to help me, as I try to grow throughout my journey, at that phase of my journey. And for them to be attentive and to genuinely, well within their, within their means, in their professional means, but to genuinely remember my stories, remember me, know the obstacles that I face, know how they made me feel, watch me cry, watch me be silent, watch me as I try to go buy a house, watch me as I try to build a business, watch me as I try to figure out my better diet plan. That's just what a therapist did for me. And there's more, but I'm going to cut mine off there and ask you if you want to add anything on your behalf.
Like I said, I've only been to family therapy and it wasn't consistent. It was as needed for whatever struggle we were facing at that time that we needed help resolving. So it wasn't consistent, it wasn't ongoing. It was kind of like, hey, this is an issue we can't get past ourselves. Let's seek a professional that might be able to help us move through this. And so that's what we did. So we go to a couple sessions, get the support, get the not advice, but like you said, you have the answer. So they kind of help you pull that out of you of like, okay, how can we better address the situation? What can you do? What can you acknowledge? What can you, take accountability for, and things like that. And so they kind of help you move through those different phases so that you're able to find a solution that maybe you weren't able to find on your own. So that has been my experience. It was helpful the times that we did go. Like I said, I do want to move into individual therapy. I just haven't made it a priority as of yet. And I think it's only because, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I think it's because it is something that I study, and it is something that I have to familiarize myself with so that I can assist my clients at the time. I'm familiar with the tools that are needed, and so there have been times where I'm like, oh, I should, I want to kind of, look into getting a therapist for whatever maybe I'm struggling with. And then I kind of reflect, like, okay, if my client was dealing with this, what would I tell them? And I kind of provide myself with self-therapy. And so then after I kind of am able to move past that issue, I'm feeling like I don't need a therapist anymore.
Right.
And those are things that anyone who's not even, doesn't have that background can do. As far as self-therapy, like you said, if you're looking into finding resources to help you with whatever your challenges are, if you find those resources in another way, you're providing yourself with that, that fulfillment to find that solution that a therapist may have helped guided you to get there. But if you're able to get there on your own, that works as well.
Okay. Say we're taking cognitive dissonance. And I know that from example because that terminology was introduced to me in therapy. And from my understanding, I don't want to put my own definition out there of it. I would suggest someone seek a therapist or someone who is educated in that definition, or, good old and trusted Google, why not? Into terms that are as such, but on the side of a life coach. I may look at it from the perspective of, let's do a mindset shift. Let's do a perspective change. You know what I mean? Let's water the plants. Let's plant the seed, water the plants, nurture. It's all about perspective. It's all about, for me, practical perspective, in a sense of, I like to use this term, being able to meet people where they are.
Absolutely.
And helping them solve that problem when it pertains to helping them build that solid foundation for their mental health. And with that, we will cut it off here, but we will address more of these lovely, intricate, important topics, continue to have free-flowing dialogue, continue to heal and nurture and heal ourselves, guide others towards healing, nurture other people, spread our perspectives, put our knowledge out there, tackle our own personal insecurities and challenges, become stronger, evolve, expand, grow. How they say, each one teach one? Is that what?
Yeah.
Each one teach one.
Right.
And also, I know I'll speak for myself. I may be speaking for you. You can agree or disagree. But, I allow this to be a time and a platform and opportunity to be open to other people, to other people's opinions, to other people who may be able to provide support, other people, within the fields who, may want to provide conversation, however they see fit. I'm open to anything that's helping us grow in a genuine, authentic fashion.
I agree.
Especially those with different titles, like the ones that we learned about today, the school counselor versus guidance counselor. I know I'm personally open to, having that dialogue, getting those perspectives from those with different titles. Because if we're here to help, you know, uh, bring different branches to the overall tree, then, who am I to say that anyone is not accepted? So, um, you want to close it off with any cheesy comment like good faith, good vibes?
No, the only thing I want to say is I enjoyed this conversation. I look forward to having more conversations like this. Like you said, open to learning from others. By all means, I feel like I still have a lot to learn in the field as well. So I'm just excited that I remain open to this opportunity.
Yeah. And this right here is a perfect example of our journey as well. So stay tuned as we continue to progress and move. You can find me at my handle. Oh, excuse me. You can find me at my Instagram handle, Breathe Here Adventures. That's BreatheHereAdventures on Instagram. and also on YouTube, and you're gonna also see us in other places. And
you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Elements of J. That's Elements J Jai. I'm also on Twitter at Elements of J. One word. That's it.
Peace, love, prosperity to all. So we can kind of get the feel, it's on, but don't really think too much about it. If you want to do a little meditation right now, where we can just be quiet and sit in the presence for like 2 minutes to get our thoughts together and all that, just let it be, because after then you'll forget all about. Just let that cycle of here's the life coaching me,
right? You're life coaching me now.
Yeah, let that cycle of let that cycle pass. Ground yourself in nature. Listen to the water. Slow it down. Get your thoughts together. And don't worry about nothing. You got all the answers. It's all here. And as we jump into